What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, September 25th, 2023, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 8:12 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have a massive missile and drone attack underway in Russia, Crimea, and Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia are currently trading drone and missile attacks. So I want to update you on that. Some very intense missile and drone attacks taking place in Crimea right now. Ukraine is pounding Crimea with drones and missiles. There's air raid sirens across all of Crimea right now. Also, parts of southwestern Russia. We're also hearing that Ukraine is getting hit with various types of missiles and Iranian drones. So the situation is really starting to escalate in Ukraine and Russia. We had two nuclear bombers airborne today, and I reported earlier that one of them was squawking a 7700 emergency. Apparently, it lost pressure inside of the cabin for whatever reason. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. But there were two B 52s airborne today, guys. That is extremely unusual. And the one that I was showing you in the update earlier, I think, was a different B 52 than the one that was squawking the emergency. But the one I showed you guys earlier was definitely on some type of combat patrol, or whatever you want to call it. It took off from Barksdale and it went like all around the center part of the country. So it looked like a combat patrol to me. And so far today, we had two nuclear war command and control planes in the air, the Takamo planes, the Boeing E-6B Mercury planes. There's one in the air now, and there was one in the air earlier, right around the time when that B-52 was squawking the emergency. So a lot of stuff going on, and we also currently have, as of 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, Russian Doomsday planes heading towards Siberia. And it looks like one of them could be one of Putin's Doomsday planes and also an airborne communications relay plane. Okay, just took off from Moscow about 30 minutes ago. All right, and we have this massive drone and missile attack underway. So it's very possible that Vladimir Putin is getting evacuated from Moscow, okay, because it's possible that Ukraine may try to target one of his residences. They tried to do that a few months back. They know where his residences are, and they tried to target one of them. And I think with a drone or something, and the drone got intercepted and shot down by air defense. But here's one of those Russian Doomsday planes, the Russian Special Flight Squadron. Okay, this is a Tupolev 214, and it just took off from Vnukovo. That's the main airport in Moscow. And there's also an Ilyushin 96-300 airborne, which is the Russian version of the E-6B Mercury. Okay, it's an airborne communications relay plane that allows the Russian Ministry of Defense and Putin to communicate with their submerged nuclear armed submarines and their bomber force. We're also getting some breaking news that several Russian bomber planes have taken off from their airfields and are heading towards the Caspian Sea to release cruise missiles onto Ukraine. Okay, so it looks like any minute, any hour, there could be a massive amount of missiles heading towards Ukraine. But Crimea is getting pounded right now by Ukrainian missiles and drones. We also currently have a U.S. Air Force combat Sentinel plane near Cyprus, and it just took off from Crete and it's heading towards Israel. Very interesting. And the U.S. military only has two of these planes, and they're used to collect critical electronic intelligence information for the president and the chiefs of staff and the top generals. Okay, so for them to deploy this thing towards Israel, the Middle East area, means that something's going on here. But Russia looks like they're evacuating Putin, possibly. Let me read to you a little bit more details about this drone attack that's currently underway in Crimea. So we know that there's been air raids all across Crimea and Sevastopol tonight, and the Crimean bridge has been completely closed. So there's no vehicular traffic or rail traffic allowed across the bridge. Local media in Crimea is reporting that multiple Storm Shadow missiles were seen flying towards Crimea. There's been explosions heard in Jankoy, Crimea, which is the northern part of Crimea. Okay, that's like a larger town or small city in northern Crimea. All right, residents reporting audible explosions in Jankoy. Also in Sevastopol, multiple explosions reported. And we also have some breaking news coming in that apparently all transportation in Crimea has been suspended by water and land. Okay, so no trains, no ferries, no boats. Everything has been suspended. Okay, so Crimea is basically on lockdown. This is absolutely huge, guys. Okay. Also, we're getting some breaking news that almost all aircraft in Crimean airfields have taken off into the sky, and helicopters have been deployed in Jankoy. Okay. So basically, the Russians, they sent all the planes in Crimea up into the air because they're afraid that Ukraine is going to destroy those planes with drones or cruise missiles. Okay. And same thing with the helicopters in Jankoy. I guess Russia has a lot of attack helicopters, so they sent them into the air so they don't get hit with missiles. So, guys, Ukraine is preparing for this massive counteroffensive. A lot of people were saying it wasn't going to happen. I was skeptical. I thought that it just fizzled out over the summer and they basically ran out of equipment. But I think either that was a very clever psychological trick to kind of get Russia to lower their guard, and because everybody was expecting this big counteroffensive in the springtime, and then it never came, and then they were thinking, okay, it's got to come in the summer because the rainy season is going to come in the fall, so they have to do it in the summer, and then in the summer it never came. And so I think Ukraine either did that on purpose because they wanted to trick the Russians and trick the world, okay, into thinking that, oh, they're weak, they're depleted, and they're fizzling out, and then and now they're attacking, okay, right before the rainy season, right before winter, when nobody's expecting it. And I think that we're going to see more of this, and it's going to pick up even more in intensity. And like I said in my update earlier, Putin is really getting backed into a corner here. And it's out of balance right now. The situation is out of balance. The scales are tipping back towards the West. Okay, before the war started, the scales were tipping towards the West because Ukraine wanted to join NATO and the EU. And so what did Putin do? He invaded Ukraine to bring the balance back and tip the scale back towards Russia so it's more balanced, right? At least in his mind. I'm not saying that that's right or that was the right thing to do. I'm not sympathizing with him. I'm saying in his mind, okay, you got to get into these people's minds, okay? That's how you figure out their next move, okay? It was out of balance, so he invaded Russia. He invaded Ukraine, and that brought the balance back. And now the balance is tipping back towards the West because Ukraine is getting all this sophisticated equipment. They're getting billions and billions of dollars in assistance. And now the scales are tipping back towards the West again. So what does he have to do? He's got to do something drastic, like as drastic as the invasion was. He needs that shock factor, that wow factor, okay, to shock the world and intimidate everybody, and also to bring the balance back into the favor of Russia, okay? Because right now, the scales are not in Russia's favor, okay? Russia just lost a huge hold in the Caucasus. Okay, they lost Nagorno-Karabakh, which they had control of since 1988, and Azerbaijan kicked out the Russian troops there and took back Nagorno-Karabakh. And now there's an anti-Russian movement in Armenia. So they basically lost control of the Caucasus. We have the Russian Black Sea Fleet completely destroyed and annihilated in a missile strike on Friday, with the Black Sea Fleet commander eliminated. Okay, dozens of Black Sea Fleet officers eliminated. You know, all these drone attacks that are just continuing, missile attacks continuing. So, it's the scales are tipping back towards the West. Okay, and Putin is running out of options. Um, Ukraine has already reached the final line of defense in Zaporizhia. All they have to do is just pile up a bunch of troops there in that area where they've made that little pocket near Robotine and Verbove. They pile in, tens of thousands of troops and hundreds of tanks, and they're just going to go through like a blitzkrieg. And by the time Russia redeploys their forces to deal with that little penetration, it's going to be too late. And so the situation is not looking good right now for Putin, and he's got to do something serious to bring back that shock factor. Okay, something as serious as the invasion. When the invasion first started, okay, there was that big shock factor, and so I think it's very possible he could resort to using nuclear weapons, even just one nuclear weapon. It's very possible. Okay, we're also getting some breaking news coming in that there's a massive Ukrainian drone attack in Belgorod. We're also getting some breaking news that the Inkerman and Belbek airfields in Crimea are under attack by Ukrainian drones, and there's an air raid. And also in Kursk, okay, the airport in Kursk, which is southwestern Russia, is also currently under drone attack. We have some breaking news that the Nikolaev airfield, also known as Kulbakino, has been under massive attack by Russian missiles or drones. It's a very serious situation, guys. Okay, we are literally the closest we've ever been to nuclear war in history, and nobody even cares. Okay, people are just, doing their thing, watching TV, watching Monday Night Football, which is probably on right now. Okay, not that I'm against it, I'm just saying nobody cares. Okay, and then when something happens, that's when people are going to panic because they haven't been paying attention, they haven't been preparing. So, get ahead of the curve. Make sure you're prepared. So when things do go wrong, you're not going to be running around like everybody else will be. Like right before all the lockdowns, everybody was, panicking, trying to get everything they needed. Everything ran out. It's going to be like that if Putin uses nukes in Ukraine, even just one nuke. Okay, the panic is going to be absolutely insane. Okay, and the chance of an escalation is very high. NATO could then get involved and start bombing Russian troops in Ukraine, and it could just spiral out of control. So get prepared. Okay, here's the flight path of one of the nuclear war command and control planes that was in the air at the same time as that B-52 that was squawking the emergency. And here's the B-52 over here to the right or to the east of Oklahoma City. It passed over Oklahoma City, and then it turned around and came back and landed in Oklahoma City, probably at Tinker Air Base. And this is the one that was squawking the emergency, apparently a pressurization issue. Okay, very interesting. And then here's the other one that didn't have any issues, and it flew like all around Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. It was up in the air for hours. Okay, this to me is a combat patrol. Okay, this is not just maintenance flight or whatever. This is a huge area that this thing covered. Maybe they're getting ready to deploy to Europe and they wanted to test some things out. I don't know. Okay, but this is pretty unusual to see. We have some breaking news coming from the Kyiv Post. Okay, this is a Ukrainian newspaper, and they're claiming that Russian officers leaked information to the Ukrainian military about the Black Sea Fleet and the whereabouts of the Black Sea Fleet commanders to help Ukraine with the strikes. Okay, so that's how Ukraine was able to time that strike precisely when those Black Sea Fleet officers were meeting. They had to know somehow when exactly they were meeting, right? So they had to time it appropriately so the missile would land at the same, or the multiple missiles would land right when they were having their meeting. And meetings don't last all day; they're usually 1, 2, 3, 4 hours max. So somebody on the inside had to leak that information out. Okay, and so let me read to you what the Kyiv Post is saying. Russian officers helped direct missiles to the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. Officers of the Russian Navy leaked information to Ukraine about the location and activities of their commanders in exchange for monetary rewards. Apparently, Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian partisans were involved in the operation. The partisans did not specify how much money the informants received, but said it was enough to cover the risks for their families. According to the partisans, they were Russian officers who had access to the general activities of the Black Sea Fleet Command. Okay, so they paid off these Russian officers who had access to the Black Sea Fleet Command. They paid them off, and apparently Ukrainian and Crimean Tatar partisans were responsible for this. Okay, and the Crimean Tatars, if you don't know what they are, they're the native people that used to live in Crimea. They're, I believe, Turkish descent. I think they're Muslim. So they're an ethnic group in Crimea. They make up a large part of Crimea, and so that this is huge news, guys. We also have some breaking news coming from the U.S. Apparently, the U.S. has sent Ukraine a list of reforms that Ukraine must implement to continue receiving military aid. Okay, very interesting. And I want to just give you an update on the situation with Kosovo. So here we have the Prime Minister of Kosovo, Albin Kurti, and he's blaming the attack on the Kosovo police on the Serbian government. He's saying that the Serbian government funded those attackers because of the massive amount of weaponry and ammunition and heavy weapons and demolitions. Okay, there's just no way a private group is going to have access to that kind of equipment, even if, let's say, it was like a mafia group. Even mafias, they don't have access to, anti-tank launchers and things like that. But this is what Albin Kurti said. He said these military-grade arms and equipment seized in the Kosovo police anti-terror operation after yesterday's attack leave no room for doubt. The perpetrators acted not alone but with state backing. Serbia must be held fully accountable for sponsoring violence on Kosovo territory. Okay, so the situation with Kosovo and Serbia continuing to escalate. It's not looking good after this. It looks like we may have another Balkans war eventually. Let me just read to you some of the equipment that they recovered: 24 sport utility vehicles, one heavy armored vehicle, two ATVs, 8 anti-personnel mines, 29 anti-tank rocket launchers, 54 mortars with 82 millimeter caliber, 88 mortars with 62 millimeter caliber, 75 hand grenades, 8 anti-tank mines, 150 sticks of dynamite, 10 pounds of plastic explosive, 20 kilograms of TNT, 9 grenade launchers. I mean, the list is just crazy. Okay. There's just no way that some random group would get access to that. But anyway, guys, wanted to just give you this update. The situation in Crimea is very serious right now. Ukraine is pounding it, and they're also pounding Russia, and Russia's pounding Ukraine as well. So they're just going at it, trading attacks with drones and missiles. So the situation is just really escalating. Please make sure you guys are preparing, and I'll keep you updated as the situation unfolds. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notification so this way you can get notified of these updates, and share me out on social media. Also, I want to just give a big thanks to my moderators. You guys are awesome. And I want to also give big thanks to all the people out there that send me information. Thank you guys so much. I get a lot of information from various people throughout the day. You know who you are. Thank you very much for sending me all your information that you find. It's very useful. If any of you guys have anything you want me to know about and you want me to share, feel free to send me an email, nyprepper85@gmail.com. Sometimes I miss things. It's impossible for one set of eyes to see everything, and sometimes I miss something, and somebody else out there, they see something that's concerning and they send it to me, and then I can get the message out. Okay, so thank you so much. And other than that, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere.